Oh my God.
In the first shots, we see a woman getting into a car. This is all happening late at night. The woman has no idea that someone is following her. Events then take us to a raucous wedding anniversary party for Darcy and Bob Anderson. While the spouses dance, a man named Holt Ramsey reads an article in the newspaper about a serial criminal nicknamed Biddy. Darcy talks with her son and daughter, and then goes to powder her nose. Her friend, Betty Pike, thinks Darcy is lucky to have a loving husband, good children, and everything one could dream of. Betty also mentions that the news reported on another victim of Biddy, who preys on divorced women like her. Later, Darcy's husband presents her with a special gift for their anniversary, earrings in the shape of fish, Darcy's zodiac sign. Holt watches the happy couple the entire time. Guests make toasts and give Darcy and Bob gifts. Their daughter Petra expresses gratitude to her parents, whose happy marriage sets an example to follow. When all the guests leave, Bob and Darcy are left alone. Despite being married for a long time, their passion for each other has not faded. Bob sees Betty having fun with a man outside, but he doesn't tell the wife. The whole time Holt was sitting in the car outside the couple's house. On the occasion of the anniversary, Darcy wants to give her husband a rare coin, since he's into collecting it. Bob doesn't think it's a good idea, as he usually finds trophies by accident. The man says he likes to hunt. The next day, Bob hugged the children as he was about to leave for a day on business. The family had had a wonderful time together, but now each of them has gone back to their own homes. At home, Darcy prepares to clean up after the party. The news reports on Biddy's crimes again. The latest victim was a woman named Marjorie Duval, whose body was found in a vacant lot. Biddy usually sends the police documents of his victims, so now they can only wait. Bob leaves romantic notes around the house for his wife, a tradition they have had for a long time. In the evening, in the garage, Darcy finds another sweet note from her husband. Suddenly, there is a knock. Frightened, Darcy turns off the lights. She sees the silhouette of a man outside. Then a car pulls up to the house and soon drives away. Darcy turned on the light again. She was looking for some of her things here. Behind the boxes, she saw a small red casket. The daughter had made it for her father once. What was inside the casket shocked Darcy. They were documents belonging to the deceased women, including Marjorie Duval. Darcy couldn't believe that her husband was Biddy, the one the police were looking for. Not knowing what to do, she put the documents back in the casket so Bob wouldn't suspect anything. Darcy was on the brink of hysteria. As she left the garage, she was still trying to make sense of what she had seen. When she got home, Darcy heard the phone ringing. It was Bob. She tried to act as if nothing was wrong, but he still suspected something. Her voice was shaking as if she was crying. Darcy lied and said she remembered her sister, who passed away a long time ago. She was a year younger than Petra when it happened. Bob said his wife he loved her and would be back tomorrow. Darcy started searching the internet for information on all of Biddy's crimes. The crime scene photos shocked her. Apparently, the criminal hates women. After each crime, he sends the victim's documents to the police. On one of the women, Darcy saw gold earrings in the shape of fish, the ones her husband gave her for their anniversary. Darcy burst into tears, realizing that these earrings were her husband's trophy. She had no idea about her spouse's double life. Bob was a model family man who never gave any reason to suspect him. Darcy realized that there were many of Bob's trophies in the house. Without realizing it, she received them as gifts. To calm down, Darcy took a sleeping pill. There was another romantic note from her husband in the vial. Now Darcy understands that she has been living with a liar and a monster all this time. Looking in the mirror, Darcy imagined herself in the place of one of Bob's victims. Meanwhile, he spotted a middle-aged woman reading a book in a roadside cafe. When the woman left, Bob followed her. He watched as she got into her car and drove away. The woman had no idea she was being followed. As Bob was driving, tears filled his eyes. He couldn't control it, so the same scenario repeated itself over and over again. Darcy woke up in the middle of the night from strange noises. She went to check if everything was all right, but no one was downstairs. Thinking she had imagined it, Darcy returned to the room unaware that her husband was already here. She was greatly frightened when Bob asked why she wasn't sleeping. The woman is perplexed as to why he had returned home earlier than planned. Bob said he had a bad feeling, which is why he came back. The man directly asked if she had found his stash in the garage. Darcy tried to pretend that she didn't know what he was talking about. However, Bob said there was no need to deceive him. According to the man, he has been doing this for years. Bob calls Biddy his bad friend. In school, all the girls considered him worthless. His friend Brian was in the same situation and passed away many years ago. One day they decided to take revenge on the arrogant classmates. Since then, Bob has hated women. For many years, he has struggled with this inner voice, but the situation only worsened. Biddy is his alter ego, craving for new trophies. Bob assured his wife that he would never allow Biddy to harm her, even if she wanted to turn him into the police. But Bob advised Darcy to think carefully. First of all, their children's reputation is at stake. Secondly, the police will never believe that Darcy did not know about her husband's misdeeds all these years. Darcy in despair cried, not knowing what to do. Bob suggested that she forget everything and pretend as if nothing had happened. Darcy said she needed time to think. In the morning, Bob grabbed the wife, shouting that he wouldn't let her go. It turned out to be just a nightmare. The woman went downstairs, calling Bob, but he was nowhere to be found. Darcy went down to the basement. Hearing strange noises, she hurriedly left. Darcy constantly remembered her husband's words that it wasn't him committing these crimes, but another person inside him. Now any noises scared Darcy. Calming down, she looked outside. A newspaper lay under the door. The woman cleaned herself up. In the bedroom, she found a knife on the nightstand next to the bed. Soon the husband returned and offered her a drink of wine. Darcy didn't say anything, being in a detached state. After pouring the wine, Bob calmly sliced the pizza with the same knife. The wife asked him to promise that he would stop his double life and not send the police Marjorie Duval's documents. Bob swore that he would not do it again. The spouses agreed never to return the subject again. Darcy began to behave as if nothing had happened, deciding to erase the last day from her life. While Bob was working in the garden, Petra discussed wedding preparations with her mother on the phone. The daughter had no idea that her parents were keeping a terrible secret. Darcy convinced herself that she was doing all this for the sake of the children. Bob was still trying to find his coveted coin, which had been hunting for a long time. In the afternoon, Darcy met with Betty, who invited her happy marriage. At some point, Betty noticed her friend's nervous behavior. Darcy referred to the fact that she was worried about her daughter's upcoming wedding. Later, Darcy heard in the news that Michaela Blake's body had been found. However, Darcy breathed a sigh of relief when the news reported that the woman's ex-husband was the main suspect. Meanwhile, Bob is watching Betty. Darcy saw this through the window and later told the husband that she didn't like it. Bob reminded her that they have a big event next week, Petra's wedding. Everything else should be unimportant. The limousine arrived. The spouses were going to their daughter's wedding. Bob constantly complimented his wife, who looked stunning. Many guests gathered outside the church. The family seemed happy. Everyone congratulated the newlyweds. Holt also watched the celebration closely. He suspects that Beatty is Bob and Darcy together, as the word consists of the first letters of their names. At the wedding, the guests had fun. Watching Bob dance a slow dance with their daughter, Darcy didn't want to destroy this idyll. She was willing to do anything to keep her children safe. Later, Betty told Darcy that Bob seemed to be attracted to her, but Darcy assured her friend that there was no cause for concern. The guests danced and had a good time. Darcy noticed a strange state in the husband. He just hugged her, thanking her for giving him a second chance. If it weren't for the wife, Bob would never have seen his daughter's wedding. Darcy's life returned to its usual course. While her husband was at work, she cleaned the house. Bob returned, and in the meantime, Darcy had a vision. She seemed to have gone back in time, to one of the days when her husband went hunting. However, at the sight of the next victim, she saw Petra. Darcy jumped out of bed, waking up from a nightmare. Bob, who looked excited, came with good news. It turned out that he had finally found his coveted coin. He had been looking for it since he was 14. Bob intended to celebrate this significant event and invited his wife to a restaurant. They had dinner together in the evening. Today, Bob's dream came true. At home, the couple continued to have fun. Everything seemed to be the same between them. Darcy came to the room first to take off her dress. Meanwhile, Bob, as usual, was preparing mineral water with lime for her. Bob was not expecting his wife to attack him. She pushed him down the stairs. Bob fell and didn't move anymore. Being frightened, Darcy went down to him and went for the phone when she suddenly heard her husband come to his senses. Taking a towel and a plastic bag, Darcy returned to the husband, saying that she hoped he wouldn't survive the fall. Darcy attacked her husband as he had attacked his victims. Bob resisted desperately, but Darcy intended to finish what she started and took his life. Taking the towel out of the plastic bag in a hurry, Darcy got rid of the traces of the crime. She realized that there was no turning back, so she needed to act quickly. Darcy packed meat into the bag and put it back in the refrigerator, as if it had always been there. Gathering her courage, she called the emergency service and said that her husband had fallen down the stairs and was unconscious. Soon the funeral took place. Darcy played the role of a grief-stricken widow, and the children were by her side. No one among the mourner suspects who Bob really was. Darcy had a farewell gift for her husband, those same golden earrings. Holt was also at the cemetery. Darcy donated her husband's belongings to charity. The priest thanked her for her generosity. Suddenly Holt Ramsey, who is a retired police officer, approached Darcy. The woman invited him into the house. Holt wanted to ask her a couple of questions and gave her a newspaper clipping with an article about Biddy. On the back was written Bob and Darcy. The detective bluntly said he knows the truth. 12 women have died, and Holt intends to ensure that justice is served. Suddenly, the detective began coughing. Darcy kindly brought him a glass of water and a clean towel, claiming that his suspicions were insane. The detective doesn't hide that he has almost no evidence. However, he is confident that Beatty is Bob and Darcy. Holt has a talent for solving such crimes. Darcy stated that she would not allow her children's lives to be destroyed. The detective asked her to think about everything thoroughly and left. Darcy watched him through the window. The man could barely stand on his feet. When he reached his car, he passed out. Making sure that Holt wouldn't wake up, Darcy returned to the house. That same evening, she visited Holt in the hospital, retrieving a pillow from the closet. Weakened, Holt said that she wouldn't be able to escape responsibility a second time. Before do it, Darcy asked him what was the worst thing he ever did in his life. Holt in turn asked her what she threw into the grave. Darcy told him about the earrings the husband gave her on their 25th wedding anniversary. Darcy also showed the detective the casket with the victim's documents. This casket had been made for Bob by their daughter as a child. Holt realized that Darcy wasn't involved in her husband's crimes. It turned out that Biddy was not Bob and Darcy. In fact, Biddy was the nickname of Brian, the boy he had been friends with in childhood. Abandoning her plan, Darcy was about to leave. She was no longer afraid of being caught. She was surprised when Holt handed her the casket, saying that he would keep her secret. The detective believed that the woman did everything right. She delivered justice with her own hands, protecting her children from the nightmare they could have endured if the truth had been revealed. Darcy returned to her usual life. One day she found a note from Bob. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.